Hey guys, my name is John Clarke, licensed counselor, group practice owner, and a guide for therapists trying to build a better business without all the overwhelm. And in this quick video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about who I am and how I got here and why I do this work. Okay, so it all goes back to the very first message that I remember receiving when I was in graduate school, very early on in graduate school. I think it was the first week. And it was one of those classes that was like intro to clinical mental health classes. And we go in and we're learning about the profession and ethics and all sorts of not so fun stuff like that. And they thought it was a good idea to bring in a panel of counselors who had been out in the field for a while. And I don't know how they got this panel, but these were the most exhausted, burnt out, unhappy looking counselors that I had ever seen. I think a lot of them were working in jails, community work, agency, etc. So I think it was a sample of therapists who were working really, really hard jobs for really low pay. Some of them were probably still not licensed. And so these therapists get up in front of the room and they talk to us, and the resounding message was this: you can't help people and make good money. And to go even further, it was really like, you can't help people and make good money. And if you are here to try to do that, then you should turn around and probably leave right now, or you should probably reconsider your choice as in getting trained as a professional counselor. So I remember hearing that and just being shocked by it and looking around the room like, is anyone else shocked by it? And I think we were, but we were also like, we're already here. A lot of us had planned our lives around becoming professional counselors. And so sitting in front of this panel of counselors who are already out in the field was like, okay, this might be true, but also I'm not going to turn back now, so I'm going to keep pushing forward. But I remember walking out of class that day and thinking, that can't be true. I don't believe that it has to be that hard, that helping people doesn't mean that you can't make good money at the same time. And ever since then, this was years ago, ever since then, I've really been on a mission to help turn that myth on its head, right? So to prove that people can be in the helping professions and become wealthy. So a couple years later, I'd finished my program and I headed out to San Francisco and I started building my very first practice. I learned a lot of things the hard way. I did virtually no networking because it's never been the thing for me. It's the thing for some people, it works for some people, but it has never been the thing for me. So when I got out there, I decided to build my practice entirely online, essentially, or entirely from getting clients online. So although looking back on that time, it was one of the hardest times of my life, and learning things like how to build a website, what is SEO, how does Google Ads work, learning all this stuff on my own was not easy, and at the time it felt too difficult. But what it was preparing me for was to eventually teach therapists the exact things that I had learned the hard way in building that first practice in San Francisco. Fast forward a few years after that, so I had reached kind of the peak of what I was doing there in San Francisco as a solo practitioner, had a full caseload, was working 3.5 days a week, kind of living the dream, playing tennis, on a Wednesday at 12 p.m., and really enjoying my life, but also asking myself, now what? There must be something next. So what happened is I actually went to I thought, well, I want to teach therapists, and so how do I teach therapists? Well, I probably need a PhD. So ended up applying to programs. I had to take the GRE for the second time, which I don't recommend, and ended up back on the East Coast for a PhD in counselor education. Now, that program is really, my experience there in that program is a whole nother story, but the short of it is that it didn't work out for a number of reasons. One is that I think some faculty, or most faculty for that matter, couldn't really get behind me wanting to bridge the gap between academia and business, academia and private practice, and helping to prepare counselors to be more successful as business owners. So that was one of the challenges. And then the other realization was, the more I was helping therapists on the side and doing stuff like this, creating content, making videos, creating a podcast, starting to coach therapists in different offerings, I realized, well, I'm already teaching therapists and I'm actually doing it on my own terms. Not only that, but I'm making 3 or 4 times the amount of money I would make as an academic, and I'm working less. And I don't have to answer to anyone. And so that really worked out for me. Again, that's not for everyone. It really worked out for me though. So I've really haven't looked back since. I made that leap and I decided to commit fully to my work in helping therapists. And that's what I've been doing ever since. So once I knew that I was heading back to the East Coast and I was heading to Charlotte, North Carolina, I had to put my own methods to the test. So what I did is I started basically building the practice about 6 months before moving to Charlotte. And by building the practice, I mean really building the website, getting it recognized, really dialing in the message, starting to test things so that when I would arrive to Charlotte, I could open up my practice here, and I had 6 clients booked for the first day that I was open here, all cash pay, in a market where most therapists here were telling me you can't do cash pay here. So I had to put my own methods to the test, and ultimately these were really good kind of proving grounds for me to really practice what I've been preaching all of this time. Since then, I've continued to grow this practice into a successful group practice, all cash pay, multiple clinicians, and to scale the business from there, in addition to really scaling my work in helping therapists. Now, somewhere along the way in helping therapists, I identified what I believe is the biggest question in the mind of every therapist. How am I going to get more clients? And it's that precise question that I've been obsessed with ever since. Completely obsessed with helping answer that question for therapists. The reason is I see a lot of therapists doing things that are not working to get more clients, and I don't think marketing has to be that hard. I don't think it has to be a big scary thing. I don't think it has to feel like a dirty word, and I'm here to basically make it a lot more straightforward, less overwhelming, and a lot more simple for you to get in front of the clients who really need your help. Now, a question that I often get is people are asking me like, what makes you qualified to teach this stuff? What makes you qualified as a therapist to teach therapists about marketing? Well, the short of it is, I usually tell folks when I'm looking over here at my bookshelf, half of my bookshelf is full of therapy books, Yalom, Beck, trauma books, all sorts of good stuff. And then the other half is marketing, copywriting, sales, websites, understanding how marketing works, and basically taking everything I've learned from both worlds and integrating it into one. Because to me, they're really quite similar, right? Marketing and psychology are quite similar. We understand as psychologists, clinicians, etc., what motivates people. How does human behavior work? What motivates people to take action? Well, marketing is just getting people to take action. So for me, it's not that far off. And I'm really fascinated by how people go through a process of being a total stranger to being compelled to action and becoming a paying client, a paying therapy client. So that's really it. That's how I got here. That was my start. This is part of my mission, being told that you can't help people and make good money, understanding and me realizing the biggest question that therapists face. How am I going to get more clients? And then basically my growing obsession with helping to answer that question for therapists everywhere. And I've helped over 300 therapists in some form or fashion at this point. So I hope you enjoyed this video. You can always like and subscribe here where you're watching the video. And of course, you can head on over to thejohnclarke.com and apply for a free call. Again, thejohnclarke.com and apply for a free call. Again, hope this was helpful, and thanks for stopping by. Cheers.